excited about. So, personnel files can be one of the most overwhelming and frustrating areas to deal with when you're trying to get accredited or have a good survey, because there's so much that requires attention in personnel files. And I was sitting here trying to think, how am I going to make this usable for them on a video where you'd literally have to like pause and unpause and pause and unpause every couple minutes to try to get written down all the areas that I was planning to cover today of personnel files. So I decided that I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to try and spend this whole video covering every single area that you need to know, because I don't feel like that would be the most helpful thing that I could do for you. So what I decided to do was to go ahead and put together a packet. I'm going to give you all the forms that I use with my consulting clients when I'm helping them prepare for accreditation or ensure their compliance for survey. So I've got a bundle here, and for anyone in this group, I'm going to give it to you. I'll put a link in there, and you can, just like all my other download bundles, if you go in there, you download all the forms and you plug your agency name in. You still need to review all the forms. Make sure that it reflects what you have in place. Because just because there's, one option doesn't mean that's right for everyone. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that link in the comments in the group when this is over, and you'll have access to download all the forms I use for personnel file audits that way. So that being said, there are a few things we need to review for personnel files on a high level. You need to have, generally speaking, 3 separate areas where information is kept. It needs to be behind 2 locks. So the office door is locked, that's 1, and the filing cabinet drawer is locked, that's 2. So in that filing cabinet, you need to have a restricted file and a general file for each employee. So on a technicality, those are not supposed to be kept together, just FYI. So if you pull them out and hand it to the surveyor with the personnel file and the restricted file together, they frown upon that. So you want to keep those separate. And when you hand them to the surveyor, you hand them separate unless they ask. And then the third thing is the I-9 binder. You want to keep the I-9 separate, all in a binder. I just take an A through Z divider, and for each employee, I put their I-9 form in there. And those are kept in a separate binder in a locked drawer. So you have 3 areas. You have the personnel file, the restricted file, and the I-9 binder. And those all need to be kept securely in a location. So like I said, I'm not going to go through each area of the personnel file, but I'm going to show you what's in this packet that I am giving you so you can see it. Let's see if it's going to work. My computer has had some issues with screen sharing, so we're going to see if it works. Doesn't look like it's working. Oh, here we go. Okay. Hopefully, no, that looks weird. You can see that. So this is your initial skills sheet. This is going to be in that pack, and it has your employee name, date of hire, their competencies for, you can just change this to the year of their hire. I look back 3 years because that's accreditation, their 90-day eval, and then their last 3 years of evals. So there's one sheet that's in there. That's the employee eval and skills competencies audit. Hopefully you could see that and it's not doing anything weird. The second one is this personnel items needed. This is a way to audit your existing personnel files by employee. So employee name, and then everything that's supposed to be in it. Now, some of these may or may not apply to you. And there is an individualized list in this download pack by agency. So private duty, hospice, and home health each have their own list. And then the last thing in it is going to be the orientation checklist, which is going to show you all the items required. Hopefully you can see this. I'll go back and watch and have to learn how to do this correctly. But this is a checklist of all the items that you need to cover in orientation. In my last survey, they wanted us to add access to policies and procedures. We did not have this on our orientation list, and we had to add it. So they had to initial that they were instructed on how to access policies and procedures. So this is the orientation checklist. And lastly, this is the employees file checklist that I mentioned would be agency specific for depending on hospice, home health, or private duty. So it's going to have all the items that you need to have in the personnel file, all the items that should be in the restricted file, and all the items that should be in the I-9 binder, which is the I-9. So those are the items that are in that packet for you. I hope it really helps you. Again, it's only for the Leaders in Senior Care Facebook group for that free download pack of personnel files audits. So if you're not in that group, go to Facebook and search for Leaders in Senior Care, and you will be able to get that for free. So hopefully that helps you with personnel files. There are a lot of areas for deficiencies in personnel files. The last survey that I just had, we got a tag on employee signature lines. So not necessarily personnel file, but still kind of falls in there because the credentials were not included on their signature line in the EMR. So as part of our onboarding process for employees, once they onboard, we're going to put their credentials directly into the EMR signature line. So we got a tag for that. The other thing that's very common is your hepatitis B series. That has to be offered within 10 days of employment. And then where people get tagged is they don't follow up on whether the employee received it. If the employee accepts, you need to complete the series, and that's a common area. The other thing is renewables. Renewables. Every time you're like handing the surveyor a file and you look down and their driver's license or auto insurance expired last month, you got to have a process in place for renewables. Many EMRs will let you enter your renewables in there, and they'll set a reminder. If you put the expiration date in, they will remind you of when the licensure or insurance or, whatever expires, and you can use that. That's a great feature, but not all of them. Most people that I know have their medical records or business officer, HR manager, using some type of Excel tickler file where it, you keep track of all of the dates of expiration of the renewables. And this sheet that I just pulled up and shared with you, the evals and competencies. For those, you can make a sheet just like that says, here's the date of expiration. They've got 19, 20, 21, and you can go down and see whose expires when. So there's a lot of helpful audits in there you can use. And I think honestly, that's the best way, is to have a designated person. And then you as the leader go back through and check it, because it's not enough to ask if the employee files look good. Okay. And that's a common mistake. Hey, how do the employee files look? Are you up to date? Yep. That is not going to work. You're going to have a shared file that has the expiration dates. And once a month, at the end of the month, you go through it and they go through it. Maybe they go through it the third week of the month, and then you follow behind them the following week and check and see if any of them still say dates that have already expired, because that is a trap to get caught in, is those renewables expiring and you not catching it. Any immediate questions on employee files? I don't see any in the comments. If you have any questions on your employee files, I know there were a couple questions on competencies. There is a competency tool in the free download kit that you can use to track those annual competencies. Just note that those have to be performed before giving direct care. So if it's a direct caregiver that you're having that's going to provide some direct care to the client or patient, then they have to be checked off prior to that occurring by a like discipline or an RN if it's a CNA. So you want to know that those have been performed your orientation process needs to be built out so that those are occurring before they see patients. So in this download pack, it'll be in the comments. Take a look at the orientation checklist. And once you download that into Microsoft Word, you can change all those areas to reflect what you want them to say. So you can change who's going to do what. You can change what order it's in. You can make it whatever you want for your agency. You can add your logo and your branding. You can change the name and save it. So download, save as, and then change anything you want to be your agency specific. And I would always recommend changing those forms because you do want it to reflect what your agency is doing. Okay, if you have any questions, if you get the download pack and you have any questions, you can put them in the comments here and I'll make sure I double check those and make sure you don't have any questions about how to use that or any of the forms. And I hope that is super valuable for you and something that will help you remain in compliance. So we'll be back tomorrow.